I'd like to invite Martin Pugh to the stage. Hello, Martin.
Hi, Deborah.
Nice to see you. Okay, so our next presentation is with Martin. He is from Marathon Press, based in Norfolk, Nebraska, for 45. What do you mean for 45 years? For 45 years.
45 years.
The business has been open for 45 years.
Yes.
Okay. Marathon Press has been open for 45 years. It began by serving the professional photography market nationwide and marketing collateral, prints, and educational services. About 10 years ago, they started an expansion into the area of white label photo book production, which has now become the largest sector of their revenue. With a team of over 100 employees, Marathon is powered by a fleet of digital presses, which happen to be Indigo presses, which also happen to be partners on the platform. So check them out too. And in an extensive in-house bindery with amazing finishing capabilities. Marathon has also implemented lean manufacturing workflows to better serve their clients, who are some of the top e-commerce firms that offer consumer photo book products, stationery, and personalized children's books. Martin Pugh himself works on product development, business development, and management of custom book production projects at Marathon. During his time in the print industry, he has held various roles, from a print buyer to a print broker, print sales, and many things in between, which is probably why I love you, Martin. Over the years, he has witnessed massive changes in technology, along with the shifting business trends that have created new opportunities for print. And just ask him, and he will tell you it's never been more exciting time to be in the printing industry. On a personal note, I met Martin at a Graph Expo show many years ago, probably just wandered into my booth, and we became fast friends. Martin, I'm not sure if you're going to show any of your handmade work tonight, but Martin is a craftsman. He makes handmade books. I am proud and honored to be a recipient of a few of them. The Alchemist Journal is still my favorite. Without further ado, Martin Pugh.
Thank you for inviting me. Deborah wanted me to speak to some of the actual physical attributes of the forms of the book that we produce now. And we produce books, as Morton was talking about, the business trends have really changed and continue to change. Even in the past 24 months, things have changed once again. But we produce books as low as one unit for some of the photo book and e-commerce companies that we work for. So just to start off with some of the physical types of binding of books that we do is just a regular perfect bound book. The other thing to mention is that with the equipment that we have and the niche that we're in, and the serving mostly photographic customers, most of our work, the books that we produce are illustrated books throughout. So these are just some examples of perfect binding. Is one style where the pages are glue bound, and that's pretty common. Another method is called Smythe sewing, and Deborah wanted me to show some of the aspects of it. You'll see that a book that is sewn with thread through the fold of a 16-page signature, so the pages will lay flatter in a Smythe sewn book. This one is detached. I haven't put the book together, but to be able to show the components of the book, Deborah wanted me to show how the inside of a hardcover book looks like this. This is the front cover of the book, and the printing is folded over onto the three pieces of board: the spine, the front, and the back.
Martin, you're gonna have to hold it up a little higher.
Okay, yep. The other form of books that we're doing is called a lay flat book, which you can see here. And this has no seam down the center. This is definitely a product that's generally produced for wedding albums, travel books, and many other types of special events. But the book of this style is generally not produced in large quantities. We're generally producing these as one-off books. We can even produce a book that size all the way up to a book that's 14 by 19 inches with lay flat binding like that, which produces a very impressive showpiece for either a photography studio, a museum, or many other uses for that kind of a book. When people talk about, they often refer to the term lay flat. There are many terms that could entail, from smythe sewing to the lay flat style that I just showed you. Another common style that does lay flat is just typical Y-row binding. So those are some of the forms, and we have a few variations. One of the things Deborah also wanted me to talk about before I got too deep into things were the issues with the supply chain issues that everyone in the printing industry is having during this past 24 months, basically, with the pandemic. And so as I get into showing some of the examples here, bear with me to understand that the choices that we make for our paper and our cover materials and some of those things are all based on relationships that we have and proximity and some of those kinds of issues. We have very good suppliers of cover materials, for example, and some of them have some exciting materials, but sometimes we can't get those in the time frame that we need, so we work with somebody that may be a little bit closer to us. Getting back to the style of smythe sewing, there are a few variations of smythe sewing, and Deborah wanted me to show some of the what it actually looks like before it's into a book. And as you can close up see, there's threads here. One style of the binding that can be used for is what they call exposed smythe sewing, where you see here there's colored threads in here. And this was a book we did for an architecture firm in conjunction with a printer friend of ours here in the state of Nebraska. And they do this, this edge here is smythe sewn, and the thread on the inside is a color thread. So it's a value added thing. It adds a little bit of drama and panache to a book, and it draws you in. It's something that you stop and you look at, and it's a lot harder to throw away something that's a little bit unique like that. Another book that they did the following year, we've done this book for Barnhart Press in conjunction with a printer here, that they do this book for their client is HDR. It's a global architecture firm, and they do this annual book that's called Opacity. Now, what they did on this book this year is it's a perfect bound book, but we put end sheets on the book, and the edge of the book, as you can see, it's all printed. So every single page is folded over so that as we bound that book, we did not cut the spine so that you can actually see the edge of the printing. It's a rather unique piece. We had never done anything like that before, and working closely in conjunction with Barnhart Press and HDR, the client, they produced a fabulous piece here.
Martin,
Yes.
does that type of printing or process have distinct name if somebody wanted to ask for it?
Yes, I would call this Flexi Binding because what it does is it's a perfect, I can hold up a perfect bound book here that I had just a second ago.
Is that also referred to as a French fold, Judy? Hi, Judy.
Yes,
I'm sure
yes,
Tom
there
wants
are
to know.
French folds on it, but what I was getting at is a perfect bound book doesn't lay open just as quite as much. And if we take this book, didn't put glue in the spine area, you get this nice lay flat openability to the book. And each section of the book is a 4-pager. So there's 76 4-page sections put together. And these are called, I guess you would call it French folds. And the flaps are also a unique feature. Moving along, we have some of the products that we do are cloth bound hardcover books, books with foil stamping finishing on them. And this is an example of a book that is an annual book that is done for the Professional Photographers Association. It's cloth bound, and I don't have a dust jacket that goes with this, but each recipient of the book, it's an artist showcase that we have. So personalized dust jacket with their own images on it through digital printing. So with about 800 copies, each recipient of the book receives a unique dust jacket of their own personalized version of it. Those are just some of the examples that we're doing. And I wanted to, Deborah wanted me to maybe show a little bit of a hands-on example of something. And my thought was when Deborah announced the idea for the topic of Beyond Books, and I thought about the audience that we're speaking to here. You might often not even, some of the people, creative people or printers, print service providers that are watching, they might not ever really get into book production like I'm involved with every single day. But what you may often run into is a situation where you're producing something like a wire-bound book for an event or an educational seminar and something like that. And you may have a product such as this. This is a wire-bound workbook, basically. And you want to dress up the product. So what would that entail? And that basically gets into the topic that I wanted to talk about, is when a project moves beyond paper into presentation materials, and where do you go and where do you start? And one of the things you have to start with is you have to start with, number one, choosing a format, which we're going to make for this notebook. We're going to make a hardcover refillable notebook that goes around this book. So one of the first things that you choose is you need to choose cover materials, and cover materials come in many forms. I'm holding up some swatch books here. These are swatch books from one of our. You can choose materials that are cloth bound, cloth materials. You can choose materials that are non-woven materials, which would be like a leatherette or a bonded leather or even a real leather. And we can do all of those things. All of those things involve different prices. So that can be a consideration. One of the examples here of bonded leather. This is not a leather per se, it's actually a faux leather. And this comes from Ecological Fibers Company. The example I'm going to show you tonight is using a material called Verona cloth. And that comes from a supplier that's very close to us that we use a lot of the colors in here. It's a very popular cloth material that has a nice touch to it. And I'll show you the example here. What we're going to run through is how cover is made. So basically, the first step is we're putting the boards onto the cloth, and here I have a front piece, a spine board, and the back piece. In between here, there's about 1/4 inch gap, and because this material is about 3/4 inch thick, we're going to make the spine about 0.875 inches thick. So this is what it looks like in the very first step of the process. The next step is where the very next step is we put a liner over the inside of the piece right here. And I'm holding up this piece. This is a piece of chipboard that's going to go onto this side. And then this edge is all going to turn over and be like so. Doing it with my hands here, but that would be glued down and it would look like this. Then in the final form, you're going to have the cloth piece is put over that. I can put my finger in here. I have this upside down. And I have created a little pocket for a business card, or you could create a pocket here where you could put information into it. And now we'll take the book and slide the back cover of that wire bound book into here. And then you have the hardcover refillable notebook right here. And these are something that I have been asked to produce. This is not something that's like typically on the menu here at Marathon Press, but we have been asked to produce these kind of materials from time to time for various companies and various events. I made this one specially for Deborah for Project Peacock. Another way that some things can be added, value added products that are kind of book related, but not really a book per se, would be things that can be done by hand. These are boxes that are cloth bound with, could be used for an influencer box or something of that, a nice treatment like that, a presentation. Another one that I have that is, these things can be done by good hand binders, can make things like this, where you have a clamshell piece going in. We have samples of various books here, and then an outer box that closes off like that. And those things are very nice value-added features that we can produce. I have a couple other examples here. This is an example for a customer. One of our customers is a photographer named Lee Loftus, and she recently produced this book. She does this book every year. It's a yearbook for her client is Silver Edge, which is a software company. And this is just a basic yearbook that they hold an annual event for every year for clients and their team to get together and have a community, so to speak. And they make a gift like this. And to dress up the gift wrapping, so to speak, in the package, we actually made a little slipcase that goes along with that. So these are some of the things that we're involved with. The changing industry of book publishing, so to speak, is very much changing. Traditional publishing, what we're doing in the field of photo books and personalized children's books, which are getting sent directly to the consumer, are drastically changing the industry. And with lower print runs, the custom books that we do are generally in much smaller quantities than were ever dreamed of before. And that's about all I have for my presentation. Do you have any questions for me?
We don't exactly have questions. Everybody loved the presentation. They love the work. At least Jamie, the printer, is stealing your idea for the book cover. I told you somebody was gonna go after that.
I welcome that.
Yeah, no, I think people were happy to get a little hands-on demo. They love the open sewn book block as we kind of knew that they would. The lay flat technology. Let's talk about that for a moment, because as somebody who hears from a lot of print customers and from a lot of printers, it seems that technology wise, this is something like everybody is sort of, it's like the nirvana of bookmaking. How does it stay together if it lays flat? Like, is it glued? How does that work?
Precisely. We have two different brand name machines that are actually producing those. One is made in Italy. It's called Photo Story. The other one is made in Switzerland, and that is made by the name of the company is evading me. I know the rep very well. And that is Fastbook, actually, is the name of that company. So basically, we are printing the spreads in 2-page spreads. They get put into a machine which folds right down the center of the spread. And then in between those, the next spread, there's a spacer which creates the thickness of the book. I'll grab one of those books here so I can show it to you. The pages are quite thick. You can see this is probably about 18 point or more, and there's a thickness, a spacer in between this spread and this spread. There's a spacer that goes in between there, and this machine produces that book block, and it comes out just like so, basically. And then we put the hardcover case onto it before is trimmed on 3 sides.
We do have a question. How difficult is it to find, by the way, this is from Demir. He is in Croatia and he is a journalist and we love him. How difficult is it to find a workforce for book binding, especially the custom handwork?
That's a great question. We're in a rural community, so we're in a population of about 30,000. The larger cities of Lincoln and Omaha are 2 hours away from us. So we work with 3 different temp agencies here in our community, because during the season that we're approaching on right now, starting in November, our workforce swells up about double in size. We hire that many temporary workers just for a short period of time during that crunch of the holiday season. And we have, with our focus on lean manufacturing over the last 3 years, we've broken down a lot of these processes into very small steps, so that we can take somebody who's maybe very detail oriented and they might work on the quality control of flipping through the pages of a book. We have somebody else who might work fast but not detail oriented, not focusing on that, and they might work on a different aspect of it. So we've really broken down the processes, and part of like what I show you is, and the things that I do, making things by hand, we figure out how are we going to make things by hand, and then how are we going to take this to scale. So some things cannot be taken to scale. Some of the things I've showed you probably can't be done any other way than tediously by hand. And that kind of thing does take time. I myself was in the printing business for a long time before I worked at a binder. and got hands-on experience there, started just becoming totally obsessed with it, working day and night to learn hand bookbinding by myself. And I can't claim to be an expert by any means, but you know, after about 10 to 12 years, you start to get a little bit better at it.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your knowledge with us. Marathon Press has a booth and Project Peacock. Martin, I believe you could go to the platform and go hang out with everybody for a little while. So thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.